Leaving house, good for depression, bad for anxiety. Staying at house, good for anxiety, bad for depression. Standing directly in the doorway to achieve peak mental health. Fanfic authors, canon's gonna break your heart, man, and when it does, I'll be here to pick up the pieces and put you back together, because that's what a real content creator does. Seal grabs diver's hand, and now diver understands. So I went to the eye doctor, right, and I sit down to fill out the paperwork like you do, and the lady was like, thanks, doctor will be with you in a moment. And I was like, why did she say doctor twice? That's weird. But then I looked at the business cards on the table, and his name was actually Dr. Chad Doctor. And I looked around, and the other assistant caught my eye and just nodded like, you just had the moment, didn't you? Chad saw his chance and took it. Today I learned no studies have found MSG unsafe for consumption, and hundreds of studies have found it perfectly safe. Likewise, MSG's common reputation as unsafe mostly stems from one person's unverified complaints and speculation, and the substance has been considered safe by the USDA for over 58 years. I just don't think people should be eating copies of Metal Gear Solid. Metal Sear Golid. Bank of Canada urges Star Trek fans to stop spocking their fivers. No, RB, if you would spock a fiver. You know how most of the things humans use as spices are poisonous or repellent to most other mammals? And you know how everything vaguely D&D inspired has dwarves being way more poison resistant than even humans? Dwarf cuisine shouldn't be bland. It should be unimaginably spicy and potentially harmful or fatal to humans, like green potato and rhubarb leaf salad with a festive garnish of yew berries and deadly nightshade berries, that kind of thing. Concept. Humans think it's bland because rather than memorizing what kills humans, it's easier to just pass on the spices. Hashtag, shouldn't we add salt? Everyone eats salt, right? No, that's a rock. There's no way humans eat rocks. I'll never forget the dream I had about this show on Nickelodeon that was kind of like Malcolm in the Middle and even Stevens, and it was called Boy Naughty. And like every time they went to a commercial, it would fade out with kids singing, Boy Naughty! I wish you could hear this tune because it's been stuck in my head for months. Uh-oh, here comes Boy Naughty, weeknights at 6 p.m. only on Fox Kids. It fucking whimdy. Ever since I first saw this post, it fucking whimdy is easily one of the top 10 most commonly used phrases in my household. My job is done. Remember, don't forget. People who don't cook their cereal don't realize what they're missing out on. The heat of the flame really brings out the sweetness of the marshmallows. OP, I'm coming to your home to beat you in the face and ass. Jane Austen really said, I respect the I can fix him movement, but that's just not me. He'll fix himself if knows what's good for him. And that's why her works are still calling the shots today. Meanwhile, Emily Bront just said, we can make each other worse. Mary Shelley said, I can make him. Look at this absolute baby I found at work the other day. She absorbed the secrets of the orange and cannot handle what she learned. Weakling. Fool that you are, she has gained the orange's understanding and therefore its anger. From a principal's publication, 1815. Students today depend on paper too much. They don't know how to write on a slate without getting chalk dust all over themselves. They can't clean a slate properly. What will they do when they run out of paper? Proof that someone has bitched and will bitch about young people's technology throughout all of time and space. My friend was testing perfumes out at the store and she sniffed a bottle and announced, not gonna lie, this kind of sucks. The girl at the counter suddenly looked really sad and my friend was like, I'm sorry, I wasn't talking about you. And the girl looked up and said, no, don't worry, I didn't think that, but I just crushed a ladybug with my shoe. We both took a peek over the counter. She stepped on a red M&M. Every word of this is a curveball. The only high school heterosexual romance I want to see is jock girl x nerd boy. Sorry the other ones have been too overdone. Give me a super confident basketball player girl and a guy who's little terrified of her. Nerd boy is scrambling for books at his locker. Basketball girl leans on the locker next to his like jocks do in high school movies. Let me guess, no other guy wants to go out with her because she's too tall and intimidating. Actually, no, all the basketball dudes think she's super cool, but she wants the calculus loser. Do you ever start bullshitting a paper and then look over it halfway through and think, wait a minute, I could be onto something here? This is the definition of college. Literally, I was writing a paper on Asian saltwater crocodiles, like a simple about them paper for a college class, and I started noticing some inconsistencies in the scientific papers I was sourcing, and I accidentally discovered that the crocodile had been misdiagnosed, at least concerned on the endangered species list, when they should be classified as endangered, and now my professor is having me write a formal report to the International Red List to have them reclassified, and all I wanted to do was write this paper on an animal I thought was cool, and now I'm considered an expert on this species. Okay, but consider this. Mermaids in space. Space mermaids? As in alien mermaids that live in the vacuum of space and swim between the stars? A setting that uses the analogy of deep space as the open ocean, but keeps all the sea monsters. Do want. Luring astronauts into black holes with a song that carries across the void where no one can hear you scream. This post turned real fast. Space sirens. I'm sorry, but the idea of Star Trek cosplayers walking around a Renaissance fair like time travelers will always be hilarious and amazing to me. I knew a Rennie who kept a Starfleet badge pinned to the inside of his jerkin. When he encountered Trekkies at a fair, he'd pull them aside. "My lord, a word in private, if you would humor me." Then he'd flash the badge at them and then say something along the lines of, "What the hell do you think you're doing? This is an undeveloped, uncontact tribal planet. Do the words Prime Directive mean anything to you? You have just ruined literal years of research. Who is your captain? I will be referring this to Starfleet for corrective action." It always got a laugh. Gordon Ramsay voice. "The chicken is crucified. It's on the fucking cross." Cut it to shaky cam footage of a raw rotisserie chicken on a tiny cross. Someone will get upset that I said crucified, but that's just how it was written. The year is 2053. A girl lays on her bed wearing vintage Ugg boots. "I was born in the wrong generation," she sighs as she listens to Taylor Swift and cries over a One Direction poster. Some kids are actually going to be like this. Do you realize that? This terrifies me. Self-fulfillment needs, psychological needs, basic needs. Rice, be held. Are you a wet cell phone? My favorite haunted house experience was when a werewolf, after growling in our faces and effectively freaking out my siblings, stepped on my shoe and he said in the softest voice imaginable, "Oh, sorry." In close second is the time there were strings hanging from the ceiling and my glasses got caught, and this guy who was dressed up as a creepy Victorian zombie or whatever stood there as I tried to untangle them while they were still on my face, but it kept getting worse until he walked up to me, very carefully removed my glasses, untangled them and handed them back to me, and then grunted like a zombie as I thanked him and moved on. This was in the same night, by the way. This sounds like a great haunted house. So we went to an improv show and we played this game where somebody is given a trait and another person has to guess what it is based on, how they answer questions. And one of the players, who was a taxidermist, asked, "What do you do for a living?" And she replied, "Oh, you know, stuff." And to this day, that is the greatest pun I have ever heard, my god. All right, we got a swimming cat here. Very good. Good job, cat. Concept. Basically Among Us, except if you don't perform your tasks in an OSHA-compliant fashion, there's a random chance you'll accidentally kill yourself. The imposters can't murder anyone directly, they can only create workplace hazards or sabotage tasks to require precautions they ordinarily wouldn't. Hashtag OSHAMongUs. Romeo. I dreamt a dream tonight. Mercutio? I don't know. And so did I. Well, what was yours? That dreamers often lie. I had this intense AF dream last night, bro. Oh, so did I. What did you dream, dude? That you're full of shit. Jacob Janerka. Hello, this is Crab. Now I'm falling asleep and she's calling a crab. Ah, refreshing. 0% better. Me after my 15-minute break at work. Every Olympic event should include one average person competing for reference. I would watch every event if they did this. And here's our average Joe who was just explained 5 minutes ago how curling works. Here's Stacy. She's ice skated twice in her whole life and today she competes beside the best in the world and oh, she fell again. What a good sport. Look at her get up using the wall. In primary school, we had a creative writing assignment where we had to write about a character in a new, strange situation, and I wrote about a squid that was somehow teleported from the ocean to the forest floor and slowly choked to death for 2 pages, and I'll never quite forget my teacher's face because it turns out she wanted "This new school is scary, I hope I make friends," and not a graphic description of a squid dying. Well, that's just the risk you take if you decide to teach creative writing. Why is it so small? It's a baby. Thank you, science side of Tumblr. Disappointing. You've allowed yourself to be defined by a single genre. God's silence. I sterilized my cat so she wouldn't have any babies, and she brought one from the street. I am mother. The look in her eyes. You cannot prevent me from raising a family. Don't ask why Kenny wanted to be a chick. It's just how he seems to be rolling right now. That awkward moment when Eric Cartman is more tolerant and enlightened than the majority of people. Virus name, not a virus. Type, virus. Smooth. This man can't be fixed. I can f*** him though. Maybe that will calm him down. Padme Amadusi. You're not some daddy's boy who tries to dolphin me and then blimps. I understand all those words separately. When you talk to a native speaker who uses slang but you've ever only learned formal language in class. Remember when every girl wanted this phone? Yo, if you had this phone in 2005, you were the coolest bitch on the block. I didn't know this was a thing. My dad had this phone. Then your dad was the coolest bitch on the block, no exceptions. Dude, I had this phone at some point. I was a bad once. I'm not sure I even believe in the sunk cost fallacy anymore, but I've put in too much work to quit now. Not sure about the gambler's fallacy, but I've been wrong so many times before, my luck is bound to change. This one source I found out dozens did say that cherry picking was valid. Well, I don't hear anyone who made it here complaining about survivorship bias. Methinks Tadashi's legacy lies not in Baymax's 1,000 plus medical procedures, but in the fact that he programmed his robot to act wasted when his battery is low. Zoro's worst outfit. He looks like he works in a malt shop. He doesn't? Just woke up from a nap and had a dream that they announced a new Capybara Pokemon, and it was literally just a regular-ass capybara named Capybara. I mean, look, I would be fine with this. The problem with horror now is there's no men in little tank tops and booty shorts. Hashtag they were hunted to extinction. Apparently when my grandma first came to America, she didn't know what a raccoon was and assumed it was a fucked up cat and adopted it. I just imagine this 13-year-old girl with a heavy Eastern European accent being like, "This is my cat, Peter. He is not very friendly." Olympics should have a for fun section at the end of all the games so all the athletes can try different sports. Bolt v Phelps ping pong. With the expert athletes on the sidelines yelling tips. Restaurant in Japan tries to make dining alone less awkward by seating patrons with giant stuffed animals. Shall we order dessert? No thanks. I'm stuffed. Short people, whenever you may feel frustrated or sad about being short, look at this picture, and remember you will never have to experience the annoying tall person shower squat, since 95% of showers are designed for people under 5'5", and being 6'3" has this effect. This actually makes me feel a lot better, thank you and God bless. You're the bad guy in somebody's story. Pal, I'm the bad guy in my story. I'm sorry, but the Norwegian butter crisis of 2011 just confuses my goddamn brain. Because how the actual fuck does an entire country run out of butter? Did Norway just come downstairs like, opens fridge, smorgon? I was gonna explain how the butter crisis happened, but then I noticed your fucking hilarious attempt at writing, "We've run out of butter." I'm not sure if you know, but you just basically wrote, "We drove out of the lubrication." Gonna start running all my posts through several layers of Google Translate just to keep the boys guessing. I will start running all my posts with different Google Translation levels to make kids guess. I'm going to start posting all of my posts in the step of transferring the kids Google can guess. Google can think that I will start publishing all my posts during the child replacement phase. You guys are all so funny tonight, haha, lets the strap of my dress fall down on my shoulder. Yeah, we not that funny, fixes it with those claws for picking up trash. Chronic neuron misfire at work where a customer asked what my specialty was, like what my favorite drink is, I guess, and I said, Wasp Cup. And we stared at each other for a second and I decided to double down for some fucking reason and said, "You bring the wasp, I bring the cup." And she was just like, "Okay, can I have an iced white mocha?" without any emotion, and it was like two neutral nets interacting. What a nice sheep, I think, as I gaze out at a field. The sheep, facing away, starts to raise his head. I stare in mounting horror as the head keeps rising, neck elongating in some cursed spectacle that roots me to the spot in fear until I realize, oh, it's an alpaca. Thought this was going to be a horror short fiction, but no, it's just rural. The veil between rural and eldritch is far thinner than anyone wishes to guess. The church doesn't want you to know this, but the reason monks tonsure their hair is because they need exposed skin on their head to photosynthesize. They can't fully shave their heads because bald guy swag is an earthly delight that they refuse to indulge in. If he writes her a few sonnets, he loves her. If he writes her 300 sonnets, he loves sonnets. My English professor. I think about this quote all the time, and I feel like it explains a lot of things about human behavior. No thoughts, only fully articulated iron crab, Japanese 18th century. And there it is. Do you ever eat some disappointing junk food and it's like, I'm clogging my arteries for this? Things on this site are so oddly specific yet accurate. She's a 10, but she rots in her room all day listening to music and making up scenarios in her head. Riddle me this, Batman. If quizzes are quizzical, what are tests? Being alive is great because there are so many different vegetables you can saute, but then there are also the horrors. Can we please stop turning villains into anti-heroes? I'm all for redemption arcs, but it only works if the characters haven't committed like 1,000 serious crimes before. Why do they lose more actual pony resemblance with every generation? These are not horses. 1800s pug, 2020s pug. It's Friday, post-horsemouth bird. Ned, how do I remove this from my memory? You can't. He lives there now. Yeah, I don't like horsemouth bird personally.